Hey there, writer. It's me, Keith Hayden, the digital novelist. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through my entire indie publishing process from start to finish. The goal is to show you the things that I do that are free, the ones that are paid, and how you can take your idea from just an idea to all the way to publish to the finish line. If you want more information or more tools about learning how to write or how to get your ideas into a book form to where people can enjoy your stories and your experience, then head to my website, keithhayden.net. You can also sign up for my mailing list there, where I put out my own writing and tips and things to help you get sharper on and clearer on your writing. So let's jump right into this. So the first thing I start out with is I'm going to try and just give you a high level concept of how I do things. Really, I start out with a seed of an idea, just like anything. Usually, I start with just plain old notepad. Here I have Windows, so it's just notepad. And I come up with a seed of an idea. I have a story type of generator. This is not an AI type of thing. This is just a bunch of arrays that I put together that have a bunch of story parameters. I call it Story Spinner, but it's cool because it just gives me an idea about the perspective. What is this story going to be about? And then, of course, I already have ideas that I want to seed into the story, but this gives me a framework to start. This is the original notepad document that I created for the novella that I'm writing right now. It's a techno romance novella. And I just start with the high level stuff, and then eventually I drill it down to a premise. This is what this one's about. Sam Avery, an internet celebrity doctor, is divorced for 1 year when his ex wife, a Japanese woman named Kyoko, returns from Japan. She wants to get back together, but then he meets M, a free spirited young woman who he develops a relationship with. She may or may not be human. This is the premise. And then after I get the premise, I really want to work on the characters. That's where I probably spend the majority of my time before I start writing anything. I really want to dial in the characters because I feel like that's what the reader is going to latch onto. That's going to be their guide through the story. And if the character's more developed, then it's just going to be better for the whole narrative. Once I have the characters dialed in, then I will literally just, from my head, start writing, okay, what do I think this scene is going to be? What do I think is going to happen here? And this is very free flowing. I get ideas for dialogue, I get ideas for setting, and just whatever just jumps into my head, I just put it down. So this is how this you can see this here, how I'm basically just describing this is what's going to happen in the scene, and it's a very loose fitting type of thing. What I like about this method is I can go back and change it later. It's not I'm not overly committing to this. I'm not writing um, anything that's going to be set in stone, right? But this is just kind of just blocking. Okay, what's going to drive this story? Where are my narrative hooks at? And you can see I did this for the entire story. I like Notepad because it's just quick. It's lightweight. It's distraction free. I just love that distraction free. Then when I actually want to start writing, that's when I go into Google Docs because I use Google Docs because it's portable. I can do it on my phone. I use my phone to write a lot, and then of course I can write on the computer. It auto syncs, no problems there. And then that's when I'll start writing, and I'll write, and eventually I'll finish. I'm not going to go into all of the things. I want this to be a high level view. I don't want to get too far into the weeds as far as each process. Um, I do have a mini course that's called Novel Craft Secrets. It's all about how I write novels, and it goes really in depth into all the things that are craft related. I go into world building, I go into making characters, villains, actually how you write things down. So you can check that out. But this is this story. It's done. It's more or less done. It's almost done. I still have 2 or 3 sections that I need to write. So let's say the story's done. Once the story's done, then typically I do a second pass. And here's some advice for just finishing in general. A lot of newer writers, if you're new, they tend to want to go back and check their work immediately. So you may have a writing session for a day, you finish a chapter or a section, and then you want to go back and reread it and correct it. Don't do that because one, when you don't have the full story done, then you're correcting something that might change later. So even if you get that first chapter or section perfect, then what if you finish the piece and then you're like, oh, I have to go back and add this character, I have to take this out or whatever. So don't do that. What I try and do is I try and go straight through. Like I'm writing, writing, writing. I finish, I get to the stopping point of the whole piece, and then I go all the way back. And then, so this does two things. One, it gets me to the finish line, which is the most important thing. Second, it allows me to focus when I go back through. So when I go back through for the second edit, then it's all about story, big picture story continuity. Do these characters, are they consistent throughout? Because, it's been some length of time since I started writing this. So consistent characters, themes, symbolism, whatever you're going to pack into the story. It also, I like going back after I've written something and being like, oh, that was a cool line. I forgot that I wrote that, or that was a cool image that I put in there. It just gives you that, it allows what you wrote to actually settle when you come back days or weeks later. And I like that. So, yeah, just all the way through to finish and then start at the top and then go all the way back down again. So this is on the first pass. This is first draft stuff. And then I'll go back through. Once I get it to where the story is more or less done, then it's on to formatting. Recently, formatting, usually in the past, I've been using Microsoft Word. Word, I like Word. The strength of Word is that it's highly customizable. Like you can essentially do anything with Word. I tend to have a good amount of foreign language in my stories, and it's not like Latin foreign languages like Spanish or French or German or something like that. I'm putting like Japanese, Chinese, Asian languages, and so you can do that no problem in Word. You can images no problem. The con with Word is that it is it's a high learning curve. It's very steep. It took me a couple of projects to get comfortable formatting with Word, especially you're seeing my first novel, Sirius and Limnic, getting it, chapter headers and getting just these things that are people expect when they read a novel, right? The author name at the top, the book name at the top. These are, it looks simple, but in Word it feels like a magic system or something like that. It takes some getting used to. Um, Something I've been experimenting with lately is, and for the longest time I'd used Atticus. Atticus is a um, book formatting. You can write your book in there and it auto formats. But Atticus, you have to buy it. I can't remember how much it was. I bought it a few years ago, but it's not free. What I've been using lately is Reedsy Studio. Reedsy, what I like about Reedsy is it's collaborative. It's super simple. It's got a really simple interface. Let's just go into this book. And I like how it's just, yeah, it just auto formats. You put your the guts of the book in there and it automatically formats it. So you can see you can add chapters, you can add front matter, back matter, and then it automatically populates with this stuff. So something like Reedsy is great if you're a beginner to formatting, no problem. This is just going to get your book looking solid, and that's really what's important. Once I export from something, whatever you use to format, whether it's Word, Reedsy, Atticus, I export as a PDF, and then it's over to Amazon KDP. So Amazon is still the big dog when it comes to book publishing. I wish that wasn't the case, but it is. I mean, the reason why I still publish there is that one, that's where the majority of people still go, like casual people go to find books. That's where they read books. Um, Two, there is an amount of clout that can come to your book if you are able to dominate a category. So if you're writing um, a specific type of romance, let's say you're writing romantic suspense or something like that, if you became like the number one romantic suspense book, then that's something that you could put on your cover. That's something that you could put in your author profile. It's just another feather in your cap. But um, I've learned that the secret to get to a number one spot is to definitely you want to put your book on pre-order. If you pre-order, like my best selling book previously last year was my military autobiography right here, Hayden Brave. Hayden Brave, I put it on pre-order. I wrote this book really fast. I wrote it in about a month last year in 2024. And it reached number one in Air Force biographies over a James Patterson title because it was a pre-order. Because people were looking at it, they were clicking on it, they were pre-ordering the book before it came out. So that's kind of the a little known secret. You want to put your book on pre-order if you can, right? I also ran into issues with pre-ordering with my second novel here, Gates of Okinawa, because I had set the pre-order like 6 months in advance, thinking that I was going to have plenty of time to put it out, and I ended up right smack against the deadline. Like I had probably like 10 hours left before the pre-order deadline, and if you bust your deadline, I've heard that bad things happen. I've heard your account is throttled. I've heard if you do it too much, they can suspend your KDP account to where you can't publish with KDP. You just really don't want to bust your pre-order timeline. But if you feel like you can meet your pre-order, and I think you can put pre-orders as far out as a year. You can do it pretty far out. So if you feel like you can do it, you definitely should do it on Amazon because your book's already going to be getting pushed before it's even out. And that's a good thing when you finally launch. Now, as far as I need to go back a little bit before we hit publish, metaphorically, here in Amazon, because I want to talk about book covers and marketing. And I do something a little different than most indies. Like, I don't wait until my book is done before I start worrying about the book cover. I actually do it probably shortly after I have the premise down. After I have I know what this story is going to be about. I've figured that out. I'm trying to think, how can I start visually representing this story to other people online? And this is a big mistake that I certainly made when I started writing, that maybe you've made in the past. If you're working on your first story, especially, we're so focused on dialing in the story and the characters and the craft and all that stuff that we don't really think about marketing. We don't think about, okay, how am I going to get people to read this? If that's what you want to do, if you're just writing the story for yourself, that's different. But if you actually want to get readers and you want to make sales eventually, then you need to start thinking about this earlier, sooner than later. So what I normally do is, and I didn't pull it up here because it's going to take me a while to find the chat. I don't want to search while I'm recording, but I usually use ChatGPT to come up with some concepts and ideas. I'll just say, okay, here's the concept for the story. Visualize this. Get me visualize like a mock-up of a cover. Honestly, I don't really like the covers that the AI usually comes up with. They're usually, very AI-ish and kind of uninspired. I don't want to say I've never used AI covers, but at the same time, I don't prefer using them. I just don't like their look. I don't like how they look. So once I have an idea of a cover, then I will take it into Canva and sort of do my own remix of it. And this is not AI at all. This was one that I made based on just research. I noticed that this is a techno romance. I noticed that a lot of romance is the top romance books have this type of cover right now. It's just, a skewed title and then some types of graphics around it. It's not like the older romance where you have the woman or the man or whatever, like there's no people on a lot of it. Just check Amazon. You'll see. They're not on these covers, at least not right now. That's not what's trendy. So, and I'm writing this story to be more mainstream. It's still got my trademark weirdness in there, but this is meant to be a more like mainstream draw. So that's why I used this type of cover. Another thing I've been doing lately is creating quote blocks. So this is, you saw the cover. So this is a quote block that's directly tied to the cover. So visually, when people see it on social media or on my website, then they know that, oh, this is from that same, you can put two and two together. It's got the same exact layout, except it's a quote block in the middle, except instead of the title. So this is something that you can do to visually get your story out there. Not only am I sharing snippets of the writing as I write it, but then I'm also getting people to visually hook and to be like, oh, okay, I remember that's what this story is about. So before we hit publish, there's one last step that I go through, and that's getting an ISBN for my book, because this is a separate process, and I use Bowker for that. This is my Bowker profile. This is where you buy ISBNs, and I'm not gonna lie, ISBNs are a little bit ridiculous because one, there's only one place to get them, at least if you're in the U.S. It's only this website. Two, they would be very expensive. One ISBN, a single one, is $125. Yeah, for a number. But what you're really buying here, why even buy the ISBN? Because you don't need the ISBN. If you were to just publish through Amazon or Ingram Spark or Lulu or something like that, they all pretty much offer free ISBNs. Why don't you want the free ISBN? Because it's a platform lock-in. If you take Amazon's ISBN, or they call it an ASIN, if it's like an ebook or something, then you can only technically sell that version of the book on that platform. You're locked in. What an ISBN does when you buy it, one, it lets you sell it anywhere. You own this version of the book. And yes, you do need to do a different ISBN for each version of the book. So Gates of Okinawa has 4 ISBNs, one for the hardback, one for the paperback, one for the audiobook, one for the ebook. Yeah, it's kind of a bullshit system. It is what it is. But it lets you sell it anywhere, and it gives you legitimacy. It gives your book legitimacy, because a lot of stuff online doesn't have ISBNs. It's not basically ordained by this entity that has the shadow of the government, of the U.S. government behind it. So, and then also, if you are planning to put your book in print and sell it anywhere just beyond the internet or indie stores or whatever, even stores in general, anywhere physical, you're probably going to have an ISBN. I can't think of any bookshop or school or library who would purchase a book that doesn't have an ISBN, because they won't be able to find it. The ISBN makes your book searchable also in certain book databases. Without the ISBN, you can only be searched on Amazon, which isn't a bad thing. Amazon has huge reach, but certainly if you take the ISBNs by like Lulu or some of these smaller book publishing companies, then your visibility is going to go down. You're not going to be able to be found. So once you have the ISBN, loud slam. Once you have the ISBN, plug it into your manuscript. It typically needs to match. It's on your copyright page. I can show you the copyright page. Here it is for my first novel. And there it is. You can see it there. And then it's hit publish. You would go through the publishing. I'm not going to go through the actual setup, but you go through, fill out all of your book's information. You hit publish. You're done. Now, there's more complex steps with the paperback books and hardcover books. If you're doing those yourself, those can be a pain because you really have to get it very precise. Depending on your page count, depending on your layout, that's going to change the size of your cover. So I've gone back and forth many times with covers, just changing like by 1 inch or half an inch to make sure that the cover can actually fit the book, and that's not a fun process. But that's basically the indie publishing process. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really wanted to just walk you through the nuts and bolts side of what it takes to get a book out. I hope you've learned that it's not as hard as you think. And this process, how long does it take? Depends. How fast do you write? I've done this process a dozen times, and it's gotten a lot faster for me. But the first time you do it, it is a little slow because you want to make sure you're doing everything right. You have everything set up. So it could take anywhere from a month to a few months from start to finish to actually write and then publish. But it doesn't have to be that long. And if you need help with this, head over to my website, keithhayden.net. I've got services. I've got consulting. I love publishing stories. I love publishing books. And I'd love to help you get your story out there as well. So head over to my website, keithhayden.net, and just look at what I've got there. Or contact me through here, and I'd be happy to reach out and help you out. Thanks for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.